General Max Hoffman's war memoir, The War of Lost Opportunities, provides some astounding insight into what the war was like for the leader of an army. His input into how a war should be fought, how soldiers should be led, and how victory should be achieved defines the first generation of war interpretations. His stories give us a unique perspective on several battles and open many windows of interpretation. The most defining aspect of the book, however, could be its title, as it aptly describes individual lost opportunities and considers the war itself to be one great lost opportunity. Hoffman's war narrative provides great insight into the inner workings of the German High Command and shows us how simple missed opportunities can have disastrous consequences. Karl Adolf Maximilian Hoffmann was born on January 25, 1869, in the small town of Hamburg, Germany. Hoffmann launched his career in the military by studying at the Prussian Military Academy, one of the most prestigious military schools in all of Europe. In 1887, having completed his studies, he joined the Prussian army and was assigned to the 4th Infantry Regiment. In 1889, Hoffmann graduated from the War College in Berlin and was appointed to the General Staff. Following this, Hoffmann would begin his detailed analysis of the Russian army by spending 6 months in Russia as an interpreter. Then he would spend 5 years in the Russian General Staff. During his time in Russia, Hoffmann became a specialist in Russian affairs on behalf of the German army. Hoffmann first recognized how disastrous missed opportunities can be during the time he spent in the Russo-Japanese War. Hoffmann was assigned as a military attaché to the Japanese, a role he also supplemented with his knowledge of the Russian language. Hoffmann was assigned to the 2nd Japanese Division in Manchuria, where he witnessed a great amount of fighting. Repeatedly, he saw the potential for Russia to exact a swift victory, only to have every opportunity slip through their fingers because of the insubordination of their commanders. All this time, Hoffmann meticulously calculated how a war between Germany and Russia would play out, based on Russia's performance in this war. Hoffmann became very keen to the numerous opportunities the Russians lost due to their lackluster leadership. If in the campaign against us they had acted in the same defective way, and if they reacted in the same nervous manner to every threatened attack from a flank, the struggle would have been much easier for us. By the end of the conflict, with Japan's victory and Russia's shortcomings fresh in his mind, Hoffmann began planning for a German campaign against the Russians, taking into account the mismanagement of Russian forces and the insubordination of its generals. Hoffmann's predictions about Russian warfare became concrete at the Battle of Tannenberg. At the time, Hoffmann was the Deputy Chief of Staff for the German 8th Army, which had been assigned with defending East Prussia from any Russian offensive. Around this time, Germany intercepted Russian telegrams that 2 armies were on the march into East Prussia. General Rennenkampf commanded the 1st Army, while General Samsonov would head the 2nd Army. Hoffmann actually had experience with these 2 men and informed his superiors of a possible opportunity to rout both armies by playing upon the animosity between the generals. I spoke about the feud between the 2 enemy leaders, and of my suspicions of the possible psychological influences it might have. Hoffmann knew of the rivalry between Rennenkampf and Samsonov from his days as a military observer during the Russo-Japanese War, and he recalled a battle in which Rennenkampf repeatedly refused to come to the aid of Samsonov simply because of their enmity. Hoffmann, not wanting to lose the opportunity of a decisive victory, played upon the rivalry of the Russian generals, succeeded in splitting them, and then had his divisions completely surround Samsonov's 2nd Army. What resulted was the complete destruction of the Russian 2nd Army, with nearly 80,000 killed or wounded and another 90,000 taken prisoner. Samsonov, rather than surrendering, committed suicide. Despite all this, Rennenkampf's 1st Army managed to escape, and the opportunity for a swift and total victory was lost, but he would not avoid Hoffmann's ire for long. Rennenkampf's time would come at the Battle of the Masurian Lakes. Despite the resounding victory at Tannenberg, the German 8th Army expected heavier resistance from the Russian army. To the surprise of Hoffmann and the rest of the German High Command, Rennenkampf had already sounded a general retreat after a few minor skirmishes near the lakes. Hoffmann later wrote of Russia's missed opportunity. Rennenkampf could have easily turned this defensive into an offensive action. Even if our army had not suffered defeat, it would not have been free to work for its next task, the support of the Austrians in South Poland. Because of his retreat, Rennenkampf lost all of the conquered German territory, as well as losing 125,000 men. While the battles of Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes appear to have been made up of Russia's lost opportunities and Germany's successful ones, Hoffmann himself was subject to his own lost opportunity. Despite having been the mind behind the routing of Samsonov's army, it was Hindenburg and Ludendorff who would take all the credit, and in return became idols to the German people. While commanders taking glory from their subordinates was not a new phenomenon, Hoffmann was psychologically marked by his lost opportunity at glory. However, he would have many other chances to prove himself as a competent leader. At the closing of the war in the East, Hoffmann would be a German advisor at the signing of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Following Germany's ultimate defeat, Hoffmann began to compile all of his experience in his memoirs. In them, Hoffmann reiterates his resentful feelings towards Hindenburg and Ludendorff for taking away all his credit, which Hoffmann deserved. In fact, much of his memoirs were very critical of the German High Command for their role in Germany's defeat. Much of Hoffmann's criticism centered on the failure to follow the Schlieffen Plan in the West. Hoffmann also details how he believes peace could be obtained in 1917 by resigning all territorial claims in Belgium. Max Hoffmann died in Bad Reichenhall on July 8, 1927. Throughout his war experience, Hoffmann could not help but notice how the opportunities missed on both sides led to the dragging on of the war. For the Germans, he viewed all diversions from the von Schlieffen Plan as huge mistakes. In his mind, Hoffmann saw the plan as the most clear-cut method to victory, but as every opportunity to follow it was lost, more and more men would die. Despite all of his personal lost opportunities, Max Hoffmann is still regarded as one of the finest minds of the First World War.